Alright guys, welcome back to some more MLB Innings 22, and today we're going to be doing another guide covering the best batter skills in the game. So last week's guide video covered the best starting pitcher skills, and the link to that will be in the description and in this corner right here. And then also that video was based off of a guide on Reddit done by a friend of mine named FuFu, and this video will be based off of his batter skill guide on Reddit as well. And so just as I did for the last video, I will be compensating FuFu for this one as well. He's put a lot of hard work and time into the game and these guides, and we're super excited to be able to bring these to you in video form. And a quick note before we get this thing rolling, just because I say something in this video does not mean that everything else that contradicts it is incorrect. There's lots of different viewpoints and opinions on what is good and bad in this game, and things are always changing as well. So some skills that are good now may not be as good down the road and vice versa. And this guide is a few months old, but it still seems to be intact as of today. So let's go ahead and get this batter skill guide started. Okay, so to start, a few important points before we get into the useful skills and sets. The first one being that we're only going to cover what FuFu considers the best legend skills in this one. So if there's a legend skill that's not in here, it does not mean that it's not good or useful. And we will eventually cover all the legend skills in a skilled guide down the road. The next point I want to make is that yes, charisma is a good skill, but remember with mentor at level 19, you can essentially nerf a gold skill of your choice by dropping it 3 levels, and charisma nowadays seems to be the most nerfed skill. So just keep that in mind when we talk about certain sets down the road. Another point is that the speed stat needs to be 100 or higher to get the additional effects on barreled up. It's a good skill with the additional effects. It's not as good without them. And having a little bit more than 100 can be useful, especially facing pitchers that have last boss skill, especially level 8. It drops all batters stats by 12. And if you drop that far and you go under the 100 threshold, you don't get the additional effects. So just keep this in mind when we're talking about sets that have barreled up. The last point I want to make is that I will not be addressing things like training thresholds and how to order players with these sets in your lineup. If you guys want to check that stuff out, there will be a link to FuFu's batter skill guide in the description below. So first we'll cover the useful legend skills, and we'll lead it off with Pioneer, which is considered to be the best legend skill in the game. And so on a Sig Prime and normal card, you get plus 12 to contact power and eye stats, and then it's plus 12 for a legend. And then also the chance of getting a hit increases as the number of team hits is lower. So this is a very strong skill. And then also the plus 12 to the power, contact, and eye stats can also compensate for the loss from the last boss pitcher skill that minuses 12 to all stats. So there's really no drawbacks to this skill, and it's by far the best one. So the next legend skill we'll talk about is Bad Ball Hitter, and with this one you get plus 9 to contact and power, and then it also decreases the pitcher's location and break stats by 10. And then on top of that, the chance of getting a hit goes up on the first pitch of an at-bat. And with a lot of people realizing that finesse pitcher is stronger than dominant pitcher, you see a lot more finesse pitcher sets out there, and decreasing the location and break stats by 10 directly affects that. And then also this can be useful if you manually play, because if you swing on the first pitch of an at-bat, it increases the chance to get a hit, so it can help you out that way as well. And finally, the last legend skill we're going to talk about today is Contact Master. So with this one, it increases the chance of a batter getting an accurate hit, similar to that of Batting Machine. And then also, the chance of getting a hit increases based on the amount of hits the player has that match. So it can be really good in favorable circumstances. So let's say that batter has 3 hits that game. The next at bat, they're going to be more likely to get a hit based off of the amount of hits. But also, the con of this is that with pitchers being so dominant, you don't see as many batters nowadays having 3 or more hits in a game, so that effect isn't as useful, especially down the road. And so regarding legend skills we've talked about today, if you get one of these paired with another good gold skill we talk about later in this video, it's definitely going to be considered endgame. Alrighty, so now that we've covered all the useful legend skills, let's go ahead and talk about the useful gold skills. And we'll start off with charisma. So think of this as the last boss, but for batters. So it decreases all the stats of the opposing pitcher. So the next useful gold skill is Slugger Instinct, and this one increases the home run and slugging percentage of the player. Okay, next up is Spotlight, and with this one it increases slugging, and then also can induce the opponent's pitcher to make a mistake, aka throw a meatball right down the middle. And then after that, if you're still tied or you're losing after the 5th inning, the slugging will additionally increase. After that, we got Barreled Up, and with this one, it increases the chance of the batter getting hit, and then the chance of getting hit increases additionally as the contact and speed stats increase. So this is where we talked about at the beginning of the video, having speed 100 or higher to make sure you get all the additional effects. So next up, we got Batting Machine, and this is a little bit weaker than the others, but with this one, the chance of hitting more accurately increases, and I believe this has an effect on the eye stat. Okay, so for these last 2 gold skills, they're really only useful as a third. We'll start with the Ace Specialist, so this increases the chance of getting a hit when going against stronger pitchers. And with Master Base Thief, when the player is on base, the stats of the pitcher decreases, and then the stats of the batter increases. Alright, so now that we covered all the useful gold skills, let's go ahead and talk about the useful silver skills. And keep in mind with these, they're only really seen as a third and they need to be paired with 2 other useful gold skills or a legend skill. So first up, we got Training Junkie, and this one increases the contact power and eye stats. Up next, we got Heavy Hitter, and consider this similar to Slugger Instinct or Spotlight as it increases the slugging percentage of the player. After that, we got Table Setter, and this is good especially for a leadoff hitter as the batting abilities increase when there's no one on base. So next up, we got Professional, and this one increases the contact power and eye stats when your team is leading. Okay, so next up, we got Full Swing Hitter, and this one increases the power, and then also, if you get a long hit, which I'm assuming is like an extra base hit, it also decreases the pitcher's stamina as well. And last but not least, we got Endurance, and this one increases the chance of getting a hit as the pitch count rises during the at-bat. Alright, so now that we covered all the useful batting skills, let's go ahead and talk about useful sets. And we'll start with what are considered to be S-level sets, or the best gold skill sets out there, where if you pair these with any other usable silver, gold, or legend skill, it's pretty much considered endgame. So the first set we'll start with is Charisma and Slugger Instinct. So though being nerfed after Mentor, Charisma is still a good skill like I talked about at the beginning. And when it's paired with Slugger Instinct, it can provide a lot of home runs, especially if we put them as the first batter so they don't get nerfed by mess. The only con with this is the fact that Charisma is nerfed a lot. So next set we'll talk about is Spotlight and Slugger Instinct, and this is by far the best set in terms of home run production. Any slugger that has this, like let's say Aaron Judge 17, will give you lots of home runs. The only downside is, even though you're getting that home run production, you're most likely going to see a lower batting average. Alright, next we got Spotlight and Barreled Up, and this will give you a higher average. You'll see a good amount of hits and home runs. It's pretty stable. The con with this one is that it can be kind of hard to train for certain batters. When we talked about Barreled Up having speed at 100 or higher and stuff like that, and it can be difficult to do on normal cards. And the last S-level set we'll talk about is Slugger Instinct and Barreled Up. So this is very stable. You got a good average, and higher in ranked, you may see people start to nerf Spotlight, and these skills never seem to get nerfed. The only thing with this one is you won't see as many home runs as the previous 2 sets that we talked about. Okay, so we covered all the sets that are considered to be S-level, so let's go ahead and start talking about some A-level sets. And these sets are still good to use, but they're not good as S-level sets. So the first set we'll talk about is Charisma and Barreled Up. And with this one, you'll see lots of hits. You'll see a higher batting average and on-base percentage, which means you can pair it up with Master Base Thief as a third. The cons are you're not going to see as many home runs, and then also Charisma does get nerfed a lot. Up next, we got Batting Machine and Barreled Up. And with this one, you'll see lots of hits, higher batting average, and on-base percentage, and these don't normally get nerfed. The downsides are that you're not going to see a lot of home runs, and then also Batting Machine is a little bit weaker since Barreled Up got released. In the last A-level set we'll talk about today is Slugger Instinct and Batting Machine. So you don't see these skills get nerfed that often, but some downsides are you're going to see less home runs than you would with Spotlight and Slugger Instinct, and this has a little bit lower of a batting average than some of the other sets. An exception though is if you have a Legend skill or a Specialist as a third and they're all maxed out, it can be a very strong set. An A Specialist can be a pretty good third skill as well. And finally, to finish off the sets for today, we got some that are a little bit weaker than S and A level sets, and they include Charisma and Spotlight, Spotlight and Batting Machine, Charisma and Batting Machine, and then also Barreled Up and Prediction. Alright, so now we covered all the useful skill sets in the game, let's go ahead and talk about which skills we should upgrade to level 8. And this would include Barreled Up, Spotlight, Slugger Instinct, and Charisma. So for Barreled Up, you'll want to get this to level 8 on your speedy guys that get the 100 speed threshold, but can also counter the effects that the last boss has on them. For Spotlight and Slugger Instinct, you're going to want to balance out the amount of cards that have Spotlight or Slugger Instinct to level 8 based off of the player's stats or their position in the lineup. And then for Charisma, you'll want to get this to level 8 as it won't be nerfed by cleaning up your mess in the first inning. And then also Charisma at level 8 does lead to higher batting average and more consistent performance. And on top of that, if you have 3 usable gold skills and Charisma is one of them, that should be prioritized to get to level 8 as well, as you'll see a lot higher batting average, more consistent performance with the precondition that 1 or 2 batters has at least Slugger Instinct, Spotlight, or Barreled Up level 8 in the lineup. The last thing I want to mention on this topic is that it's good to vary up the skills to level 8 on batters in your lineup. So if people start to nerf one skill, you have other skills at level 8 that can cover up for it. And also, if you want more information regarding what skills you should get to level 8 on batters, check out FuFu's level 8 skill guide down below. Alright guys, that's going to do it for the batter skill guide. I hope you found it helpful and that you enjoyed it. Thank you again to FuFu for letting me do this. And also, if you have any questions or anything, put them in the comments below. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, I would highly appreciate that. And with that said, I'll see you guys next time.